Nerderotic.com.
Broken men, as defined by Septon Maribold, are wartime outlaws who began as small folk conscripts, but fled service for a life of bigotry. When banners are called for war, friends follow friends, brothers follow brothers, and sons follow fathers. Armed with only the most rudimentary equipment, from a stolen kitchen knife to a sharpened hoe to a stick with a rock tied to the end. They fight a thankless battle against disease and armored knights until one day they break. Sometimes they break in their first battle, sometimes they break in their 100th, watching their friends die, or perhaps entering the service of an unfamiliar lord when their original liege dies. The broken man runs away in the heat of battle or sneaks off in the dead of night. Having become accustomed to living off the land of the small folk where the war is being fought, it is a small adjustment for the broken man to begin stealing their daughters or killing for what he likes, often without really knowing where he is or how to get back to his village. The broken man forgets all thought of home and simply becomes a bandit. Although bands of broken men are liable to form in any extended campaign, they tend not to survive the peace, as the local lords ride home to bring peace to their lands. And now we need to talk about the broken fan and the fan-on-fan violence we have over this controversial Season 8 of Game of Thrones. A lot of the accusations out there are people don't understand the show. Now, it is my argument, if you've made it this far in the show, I think you pretty much understand it. If you made it through Eddard Stark getting his head cut off, if you made it through the Red Wedding, if you made it through Jon Snow getting killed, if you made it through Kit Harington haircut watch, you understand the show. So, for people saying Dany turning on a dime doesn't make any sense, they're right. For people arguing that Arya Stark had no connection to the Night King and had no business killing him, they are right. These are two things that I could totally buy into if they were set up well, but they weren't. But accusing other fans of not understanding the show is erroneous. Now, the other argument is this stopped being Game of Thrones. Our favorite characters stopped being themselves, especially Tyrion. Now, it's debatable what season this happened. I believe it was season 7, but most believe it was this season and in the last 3 episodes. And I'm not really going to argue with that. Now, this video is going to be very fan-centric. We're going to hear from some of you, from some of my super chats, and some of the Rotten Tomatoes reviews. Yes, it's been quite a while since I've done a Rotten Tomatoes video. Please check the playlist below. I've done a bunch of them, but I haven't done one about Game of Thrones. And wow, the last episode has a 42% audience score. Then, of course, there's the petition. Remake Game of Thrones Season 8 with competent writers. David Benioff and D.B. Weiss have proven themselves to be woefully incompetent writers when they have no source material, i.e. the books, to fall back on. This series deserves a final season that makes sense. Subvert my expectations and make it happen, HBO. And we are watching it live. Currently, it is at 551,159 signatures, and that is going up. We will check it before end of recording. And of course, there has been the fan blaming. That usually comes from the Access Media, and they do not disappoint. But this is a very different beast, what's happening to Game of Thrones, than what's happened to Doctor Who or Star Trek or Star Wars. Even George R.R. Martin has chimed in on this. And I was emailed this by a lot of people, but the first one was Michael, so thank you, Michael, that I may have touched a nerve with George R.R. Martin with one of my videos. More on that later. Now, full credit where credit is due to the cast, crew, and even Dan and Dave, who are getting a ton of abuse right now. They have not taken any of this that I've seen out on the fans. Please continue this. This will work itself out within the fandom. This is the right way to deal with this. Or maybe the actors just feel the same way we do. I don't know. There's still time. The season isn't over yet. We haven't seen anybody pull a Rianne Johnson yet. So credit for not abusing fans. But the one thing that has happened, and we're not too sure who's guilty of this, maybe all three, maybe HBO, George R. R. Martin, and Dan and Dave, taking the fans for granted. Well, the days of Game of Thrones being a money printing machine are coming to an end. I'm not saying they're completely over. I fully believe if Winds of Winter comes out, it will be a bestseller. and the prequel will probably do pretty well. Just think how much better it could have done if they would have landed this ending. 42% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's go to the people. Lionheart G, 1 star. It is a real shame that a once fantastic show is now, at its final moments, reduced to a poor example of lazy writing. Not because of the actions of the characters, aka Danny's turn, but because of how they were handled. I could continue ranting of all the screenwriters' pitfalls, but they are pretty obvious for anyone that follows the show. And it's a damn shame that the cast and crew have to suffer for this. Joseph M, 1 star. They should have called it The Short Night. What a steaming pile of garbage. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised. After all, half of the D&D duo also wrote Wolverine Origins. Hey, I wonder who's brought that up constantly. Haley S, half star. This season has been rushed. So disappointed. If I knew the show was going to end with this season, I never would have started watching this show. Legacy. This is what we're talking about. I am actually trying to help you, HBO. All of us on YouTube are trying to help you. We are fans of the show. We're just not crapping on it. We want more of it. We want you to make more money. We want to give you more money. We want the show to last forever. We want extended cuts. We wanted to rewatch all of these seasons again on our complete 8-season Blu-ray special edition sets. Not anymore. I don't ever want to watch this show again. Honest Abe, 1 star. It seems like Dave Benioff is showing why most of his work as a writer before Game of Thrones was always rotten, and while doing so, he dragged D.B. Weiss in with him as well. They left all the character development they had been working on since season 1. They have completely ruined epic characters. Deaths that could have been great and could have been remembered for years to come, and completely lost the chance to give a proper ending to what could have been one of the best shows of all time. What's left for those who have been following the show during 7 years is hoping for another season to be done with capable writers, which will never happen, I'm sorry to say. Let's check in on that petition. Gonna refresh here. It is at 578,984 as we speak. 1 star. A disappointing final season. It lacks the smart dialogue between characters. It lacks the classical Game of Thrones vibes in earlier seasons. The lack of motive for many scenes and many characters make it even worse. I would prefer to rewrite the season and reshoot it. Hashtag me too. Half star. This was trash writing. How dare they write Danny off as a mad queen like females have no control over their actions when they are upset. She was around too many warriors not to learn how to fight by now, too. I hate how Cersei and Jaime died, remains to be seen, by the building collapsing on them, SMH. Especially after Jaime was stabbed twice and bleeding out, SMH. So much trash delivered this season, SMH. So much. Game of Thrones disappointment makes strange bedfellows. Jeff F, half star. Season 8 ignored all the character story arcs from the previous 7 seasons. Both Weiss and Benioff were lost without the guidance of George R.R. Martin. And now it's time to talk about George R.R. Martin. The time of reckoning is at hand. He knew it was coming, Dan and Dave knew it was coming, and HBO knew it was coming, and so did the fandom. And maybe Dan and Dave knew that they were going to get hit with the fandom's anger first, and they are getting it full frontal right now. But as time goes on, it will turn to George, and I'm not entirely sure George is prepared for what he is about to get for the next year. This isn't going to slow down. Just look what happened to Star Wars. Now, again, nobody from HBO, Game of Thrones, George has been abusing fans. I don't want to even insinuate that, because that has not happened. They have handled it very well so far, and hopefully they continue to do so. But it's going to get bad. And George, it's your fault. Now, it looks like George may have either watched one of my videos or somebody told him about one of my videos, and they gave him bad information, by the way. And I wouldn't necessarily believe this, but I got no less than 10 emails on the subject. Now, the first one came from Michael. Thank you, Michael, where he points out, "It is my belief he's referring to your video. I have never heard a take like yours on the subject. I'm torn on whether he watched it himself or heard about it secondhand. More idiocy on the internet." Hello. As long as I'm shooting down loony stories on the internet, there was also one that claimed I hate the character Bronn and or the actor who portrays him, Jerome Flynn. That's total bullshit, not a shred of truth. I created Bronn, so it would be immodest of me to say he's a terrific character. But what the hell, he's a terrific character. Yes, he is. And my readers will definitely be seeing more of him in the books to come. He goes on to say how great Jerome Flynn is and Bronn is a character, and I totally agree. Bronn is one of my favorite characters, but I think this is what George was referring to. For example, George R.R. Martin has pointed out, although he has not named the character, Bronn is a character that shouldn't really be in the show that much because he's not really in the books that much, but he has a high Q rating. So don't tell me you guys don't keep track of this stuff. Now, whether he was referring to me or found out about the article I was referring to, which was older, through me, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because George is blogging about it, and he's blogging about more idiocy on the internet. And this one's referring to the books possibly being done, and there's some kind of deal that he can't release them until the show is over, and he's calling it bullshit. But it doesn't matter because he's blogging about it. And once the dust settles on season 8, and no matter how big that petition gets, it's not getting remade, of course, the anger of the fans is going to get focused on George, who has been very publicly putting off Winds of Winter. He's blogging all the time, blogging about going to conventions, blogging about a history book that nobody wanted that put off Winds of Winter, blogging about the Jets, blogging about the Giants, blogging about frackin' wild cards. And I know there's wild card fans out there, it's just not for me. But it's putting off what really puts money in his bank account. It's putting off what gave him the ability to buy that life-size Robbie the Robot. And it's putting off what gave him the ability to buy a movie theater in Santa Fe. It's putting off the money that made Meow Wolf. And honestly, George, thank you for Meow Wolf. I love Meow Wolf. And George has every right to enjoy his life. Absolutely. But he also has to follow through on the promise he made with all of us fans who have spent a lot of money and time on his books to do his very best to finish the book. And George has got his money, and he's 70 years old, and he might not give a frack. But you would think that Dan and Dave and HBO would care about the legacy of the show. They want residuals from the show. They want people watching this forever. But it seems like the fandom is the only one worried about this. Elliot Nelson. This show is the pinnacle of wasted potential. Do you see yourself watching the prequel series after how badly this show has been botched? And that is a question I have for all of you out there. Please comment below. I will only cover it for this show. If I wasn't doing this show, I wouldn't be watching it. On some of the ridiculousness of what's going on within the script, Dany really didn't trust Tyrion. How was he not barred from seeing his captured brother? And why did no one care? Jaime was missing the next day? I guess they kind of forgot. And that meme is going to last till the end of time, Dave Benioff. Cleve Bourbon. People hate shows ending when they're still good. But this show is a good example of why it's better to end it while the fans still love it. Great point. Battlestar Galactica. Joel Tumburo. The notion of ungrateful fans is dumb. The fans pay the freight. Normies don't, and that money is vital to make profit. Barbara Kroll. Plain and simple, us fans just took it hard without lube. We were screwed because we got stuck between the power struggle between George R.R. Martin and Dan and Dave. George R.R. Martin was mad because Dan and Dave wouldn't give him control. Dan and Dave couldn't handle it without him. Let's check back at the petition one more time. It has jumped to 648,939. 40. Is it going to go to 41? 41, 42. People are pissed. And now, legacy. That is something I talk about a lot on this channel. And with Game of Thrones, we've already seen the tarnished legacy of Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, Marvel Comics. And now we see Game of Thrones is tarnishing their legacy as well. In a very different way. But it's still happening. And you can't choose your legacy. It is life. It is the events of the universe that choose it for you. And what is the universe's instrument? Fandom. Everybody have a great day. Please like, share, and subscribe. Go to nerdrotic.com for my live stream schedule. I will be live with Dictor Van Doomcock this Sunday, 15 minutes after the Game of Thrones finale airs, right here on Nerdrotic. And before the show at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, I do pre-Game of Thrones on Nerdrotic Live. Please come and join the conversation. Please go to nerdrotic.com for my live stream schedule. And may the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
nerderotic.com. Please subscribe.